So today on Conversations, I want to talk about something that is deeply personal to me, and it is body confidence. Body confidence, body image, and how we feel about ourselves and what we think about ourselves. So as some of you can see, I am a very chocolatey girl. I have melanin popping all day, every day. And I remember growing up being called names like Blackie, or you're so dark, or being told that I couldn't wear certain colors because I was too dark for it. And I distinctly remember this one incident. My aunt came over, and I must have been between, I want to say between 8 and 10 years old. And my mother had put me in this bright orange jumpsuit. And my aunt came over and she was like, oh, no, 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 no. You can't put her in those colors. You got to put her in like light blues and like pinks. That a bright color was just too much for a brown girl like me, a dark girl like me. But even with those kind of instances happening in my youth and happening to me directly, somehow I never felt ugly about being dark skinned. I never did. I never, you know, bleached my skin. I never wished I was lighter. None of that. And maybe because my saving grace, and it's a weird thing, but I understand it now. I can say this now. My saving grace was I was always built like a bit of a brick house. I always had a cute little body. And so boys and men were always attracted to me because of my shape. And so because I always had men giving me attention, maybe it's why I didn't focus on my skin color as much. And maybe that's why being dark wasn't this traumatic thing for me growing up. And also, I come from the Caribbean. I'm a Bahamian girl. And so in the Bahamas, skin tone and skin color variations vary. I mean, there's people dark like me, darker than me, lighter than me, up to white. And nobody's skin complexion prevented them from doing or having anything in my country at all. So you will see dark skinned bank tellers and dark skinned hosts and dark skinned waitresses. Nothing about my skin tone prevented anything good from happening in my life or in my country. So I didn't kind of grow up feeling like I had to be something more or be something different than what I am and what I was, which was a dark skinned girl. And then I moved to America at the age of 13. And I gotta say, when I moved to America, I did not even understand that I was supposed to be a nigger. I didn't even understand that concept. I didn't know. And, for a lot of people, that may sound like the strangest thing. And I moved to America in 1992. 1992. I had no idea that I, as a black person in America, was considered a nigger. I remember the first time hearing the word and thinking, why is that guy calling a girl a boy? Because it's not like I hadn't heard nigga, but I heard nigga with an A and not an ER. And it was always the guys talking to each other and the guys calling themselves that. So my understanding of the word was, it was men. It was two guys. Two guys were niggas. Women weren't. We were girls, and the boys were. So that was my understanding of the word. And I remember we were on the highway. My cousin and we were driving, and my cousin cut off this guy. And she really didn't cut him off. She just she had to get over. We needed to exit. And he was being a jerk and wouldn't let us in. And my cousin is an aggressive driver, so she was able to get into the lane to get off the exit. And I remember this guy, white guy, in this pickup truck, and screaming, "You effing niggers are ruining the world." And it was me and my cousin, who was a female, and I started laughing, and I said to her, well, why is he calling us, why is he referring to us as guys? And my cousin looked over at me, and I think in that moment she realized I had no idea what this word meant and that we were supposed to be the word. And she was like, no, no, no. She goes, in America, if somebody white calls you that, they mean this, and this is what it means, and kind of gave me a bit of the history of being called a nigger. And it's not that I didn't understand prejudice. I just didn't understand racism. I am from an all-black country. My prime minister was black. My all of the members of his cabinet were black people. So I didn't understand the concept of racism because I had nothing to compare it to. Prejudice wasn't even I don't think I even understood prejudice as prejudice. I just understood it as preference. The boys preferred a lighter skinned girl or the red skinned girl or the dark, it was preferences. It wasn't even prejudice. So I didn't come from a country in a place of understanding kind of the difference the way it is here in America. And so then I get to America, and dark is this kind of like awful thing. It's not sexy, it's not beautiful, nobody wants you. I mean, you're the last girl to get talked to because you were dark. Not me personally, but just the way things worked. But that's kind of how it was. And it was the first time I understood colorism in the context of what it is today. And I am still baffled that we are still dealing with colorism and that we're still dealing with young girls who feel bad about their chocolate skin. I mean, I just have never felt bad about my chocolate skin. I love being the skin color that I am. And ironically, it's a bit of mystery to everybody that I ended up marrying a white guy and having 4 biracial children, because I like chocolate men. I mean, I like men that's my complexion or darker. And if you're darker than me, better. I mean, that's how much I love and appreciate dark skin. So to be in a country where dark skin is still kind of this thing that we're debating and talking about, not just in the beauty community and standards of beauty, but in our own community, that we are still fighting with this notion of colorism is baffling to me. And I am just curious as to, if you are a colorist, which means you prefer a lighter skin or an almond girl or a mocha girl as opposed to some dark chocolate like myself, I'm curious to know why that is. And do you understand where the root of that comes from? Because I understand why I, as a black person in America, don't have the same hang-ups about race as maybe a black American would, because I didn't grow up through the lens of seeing people as racists. I didn't grow up with the lens of that's an Italian and that's a Jewish person and that's an Irish person, but they're all white and they all hate me. That's not the lens I grew up seeing the world through. So my perception about race is going to be a little bit different than a black American. So I'm curious to know why colorism is still something that you fight and struggle with, and where does that come from? And if you don't know where it comes from, will you do the work to find out where it comes from? Let's have that conversation.